So here we go again, fractal trading, updating the major markets move. I haven't been here last week since I spent some time in southern France, which was a great summer vacation down there. Let's not talk about the knees attacks at that point. Let's focus on what we want to do here, which is trade the major market moves. And in this chart in front of you, you can see the gold chart, the CFD version. And what we see after having analyzed this for a long time is a continuation of the uptrend. You see two fractals, or you see one fractal being marked. This black line shouldn't actually be here on this weekly chart. At least it's a daily kind of breakout line, even though this last week or this week right now has closed lower than the previous week. You shouldn't be too worried about all of this. We want to follow the overall trend direction, and as long as prices are breaking to the upside and are staying above the balance zone, we just want to be long in this market, and we have been holding this long ever since the breakout of this fractal right here. If you go to trading view, you can see the previous posts where I analyzed and said this would be a good point to buy. Let's see if it will work. Let's see if we're heading higher actually at that point. This could be a really long time until we're actually making new highs, if you want. As you can see, we have a correction here. The prices have turned below the balance zone after this uptrend where they were above these moving averages. This simply though is a correction. If you zoom in a little bit, you can see this really is just a correction for this major market move, and now we've broken above the trend lines again. Maybe we're gonna make a new high. Who knows what the characteristics of this market will be as we are headed up there. You can trade this market long as it's staying above the balance zones, or balance zone above the trend lines. On the daily chart you can see the same thing, even though the moves are actually a little bit smaller. Here you are in another correction right now. We are at the red line in the middle of the balance zone, closing relatively weak today after the rejection of the red line yesterday, but the overall trend direction is what's important. The rest is just noise. So we want to stay with this trend direction and in this case buy. Let's take a look at the Dow Jones index, which makes me very happy. I saw some sort of a statistic this week where it says that FXCM clients are 95% short the Dow and the S&P, or was it just the S&P? I don't know. This is exactly the opposite of what I want to do. I want to follow wherever the market it goes. I don't want to be a step ahead of the market. I want to be a step behind the market. Bill Williams used to say he wants to be the tail of the dog. He doesn't want to be the nose of the dog, because the nose of the dog is going to bump into things, while the tail is kind of keeping the balance and just following wherever the dog goes. And this is what we do with this trend trading approach. We talked about these all-time highs over here, and now this week we are breaking above them. We're breaking above this resistance zone. You can read here in the chart all of the commentary throughout this complex correction. Now we're above the breakout zone and we are closing strongly above it. There's nothing else to say. Just be long in this market. There is nothing else to say. Follow wherever it goes and profit from this market move. Now, it's not our job to know if a new major bull market starts in the US stocks and we are seeing a 10-year market moving upside. We don't care. I mean, if this market goes to the moon, we are really happy. If it doesn't, we have risk management in place and we will find new trading opportunities, either by waiting for what the Dow Jones is going to do, or simply by finding another market. The same, or not the same, but this concept kind of applies to the next market, CFD, that I want to analyze here. The US dollar index has also been in an uptrend here. The blue lines show you the divergence, which led to a major correction. In here you only have a minor correction. The price is moving down into the balance zone again and again, making a new high, but it hasn't really been below the balance zone. It hasn't really been able to breathe, which is shown by this momentum oscillator down here. It essentially means that you want to see it switch from the upside, if it is in an uptrend, to the downside to show you that there is a major correction going on. After this correction has been below the balance zone, or has gone below the balance zone price wise, and the momentum indicator has changed from up to down, above zero to below zero, you want to take the next breakout signal occurring in this market. And this has happened 3 weeks ago actually, but prices hadn't been able to get going. This week is the first week where you see a little bit of a higher close. Let's see if this correction really is over, or if we're just trapped into this and then prices continue down, because this market finds a lot of sellers up here, but nobody who wants to buy this. Let's see what is going to happen. Again, you would simply have your risk management in place in order to make sure that if this doesn't get going, you're out right away. The euro dollar is also an interesting market we have been looking at. There's a downtrend here on the left side. What you get here is an intertwining market, just really inside of the balance zone. It doesn't get away from it. It gives you this very, very strong resistance area here. I mean, we have been in this correction ever since the middle, or yeah, almost the beginning, if you want to pinpoint it to this area right here, the beginning of 2015, all the way throughout the year, and now we are in the middle of July 2016, and we haven't been able to even close above this resistance. No, the opposite has happened. We have now broken this fractal that you find at this point here below the balance zone, and we're actually waiting for a continuation of this downtrend. Nobody knows how long it's going to take until it gets going, or how far it's going to go, but the last 3 weeks, 4 weeks actually have been trading on top of this black line, which is the breakout level. It hasn't really been able to get going. Let's see if this will happen in the coming weeks. If not, we have a stop in place on the other side of the balance zone at that fractal here. Let's see if it's going to be hit. Let's see if a trend unfolds. That's really all that we are doing. We don't want to overcomplicate. We want to follow the market wherever it goes. Taking a look at the British pound dollar here on the daily chart, we can actually see that it has been down after the Brexit, and I don't really see any major type of correction or breathing. Even the last couple of days, or the last week here, if we look at the daily chart, is touching the balance zone from the downside to the upside, but it's staying in the lower half. I don't see a heavy bounce right up to the blue line, where you would find this fractal break here being the support area, now turning into resistance. It doesn't happen. You do have these dynamic resistance lines marked by the balance zone, and this is where price is staying. A continuation to the downside should be the most likely scenario. The same is true, by the way, for the British pound Australian dollar, which is a little bit nicer to look at here. We also don't see any major type of correction. Yes, it's heading towards the moving averages, but it's closing lower. It has bounced off the green line. It's rejected that price level there, and there is no indication of divergence. And when you take a look at that weekly, you can just really see how far down this market is actually headed. Look at these last 4 weeks here. It's quite down heavily. It has met the support here, but as I said before, once you get into such a great move, even though you do see a little bit of a bounce off of those zones, as a trend trader, you want to speculate on the fact that this market is not reversing. No, the pressure is down, and you want to stay with that downwards momentum. Thanks again for watching the video, and see you next week.